am excited to introduce my guest. She's an accomplished entertainment industry professional and international consultant with more than 20 years in Hollywood, having produced and sold award-winning movies, documentaries, and shorts. She's a partner of Little Studio Films and has personally discovered and mentored emerging filmmakers. She's the host of her own podcast, The Heart of Show Business. I want to welcome Alexia Melocchi. Welcome to Hollywood Dreammaker.
Thank you for having me. It's
Uh,
awesome.
I've been wanting to have you on as a guest. You know, we met when we created our podcast. You know, we were in the same course together. Shout out to Michelle Soro and Ginny Media. You know, it was this amazing program, and we were there creating our podcast. And now we're like what, almost a year later, and you have a very successful podcast, and my podcast is very successful. And it's an amazing journey, and I, you know, I knew from the get-go that I wanted to have you on the show, so I'm glad that, you know, we can make this happen.
Yes, thank you for having me. And I have what you and I have in common, I think, is that we are so in love with artists and we're so in love with the arts and people pursuing these incredible creative dreams because you have done them, you pursued them, and you succeeded through hard work and mindset, right? As I did. And I think we have so much to give to the community. So why not allow others to hear our success stories and our struggles and our journeys and get inspired and put out great work? Because it's really all about putting out great work, right? So I'm here, squeeze my brain, my friend.
So, you know, I created the Hollywood Dreammaker podcast to inspire young artists to follow their dreams. You know, if a kid like me from Brooklyn, you know, from a broken home, from the streets, can come out to Hollywood with a dream and make that dream a reality, then why can't you? You know, you're a producer in Hollywood. I mean, I was looking on your IMDb, you have like 23 films or you produce, you have 26 in development, you have your own production company. You know, how did you make that dream to a reality? So well, I'd love to start where, you know, you first knew you wanted to be in the entertainment industry.
It just happened by luck. You know, I was born in Italy and I grew up in Italy. And I grew up watching Happy Days and Cheers and Dallas and Dynasties and Chip. And my biggest dream was to go live in America. And that's really all I knew about America, you know. And by pure chance, my mother ended up moving there. And I was 14 years old. I wrote on the diary, my biggest dream is to go live in America forever. And literally a year later, I am here in LA. I've never seen LA except like in the movies, and I'm going to high school, you know, in LA. And then again, I stumbled once again, like guess Hollywood was calling my name because I was literally in high school finishing up, and a friend of my mom asked me if I wanted to be a translator for a distributor of those people that are buying movies and releasing them in other country from an Italian gentleman who spoke nothing of English. And there was this thing called the American film market. I'm sure you're familiar with that. And they said, listen, do you want to make some extra money? You want to follow him around and go see some movies and help him negotiate the deals because he have no clue? And I'm like, sure, I'll go see movies for free and also make some money for like my shopping and my vacation. So that's really how it started. You know, I started going to films and I started seeing the business side of movies being sold and bought. I'm like going, oh my God, this is amazing. I had no idea that there was a thing called independent film, right? We're always thinking studios. And then there were all these people who were having projects and they were making them happen and selling them all over the world. And I'm like, I want to be part of that. And so it just happened by chance that, you know, they asked me to represent them. And then I went to my first Cannes Film Festival at the age of 18. Can you believe
18,
it?
wow.
18 years old, like I went to do my first Cannes Film Festival and I was like literally sleeping in this dingy motel, like outside of Cannes. I had to take a bus, but I really wanted to be in that world. I felt it was so exciting. And it just, and then everything started happening for me. You know, I'm like, okay, great. I started buying movies for a bunch of distributors. And then I'm like, somebody says, hey, why don't you start your own company? And I'm like, I don't have the money to start my own company. I was like barely 20 years old. And they're like, we'll fund you, my buyers. I'm like, you're going to fund me? They're like,
Wow.
yeah. Yeah, and they ended up financing all my trips to the markets, and I started selling movies. I started because I speak languages. I'm as you can see, I'm very social. So and that's kind of like how I stumbled into it, and I fell in love with it from that first moment. Just like the rush of being part of the filmmaking and selling and buying and financing. It was awesome.
I find it interesting that you say when you were in Italy that you were a big fan of like Happy Days and used to watch Happy Days. I mean, for me too. I mean, growing up and as a kid, I used to watch Happy Days. I mean, that was like my favorite TV show, and I'd run around and 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock rock, dancing around to the theme of Happy Days. And I noticed that you had Donnie Most on your podcast, and I thought that was pretty cool. So, how did that come about? I mean, you used to grow up watching him, and here you are now. You're interviewing him on your podcast.
It was such a full circle, bizarre moment, Billy, because I met Donnie Most through Cindy Williams, who was in Father of the Bride. And, she was in the Laverne and Shirley show. I cast her in one of my first movies that I did called Stealing Roses with John Hurd. And she was the co star opposite John Hurd. And her and I became friends on set. And all of a sudden, she's like, you got to meet this guy. He's an actor, but he's now becoming a director as well. His name is Don Most, and he was in Happy Days. And I'm like, I was in love with Fonzie, like every young girl was in love with Fonzie. So I'm like, who the hell is Don Most, right? And then I meet him, and I'm like, oh my God, that's Ralpho. And him and I became friends. He started pitching me his projects, and we stayed in touch. And I'm thinking, I have to bring him on my podcast. This is like such a like full circle moment for me. So that's how it all happened.
That's awesome. It's for me. I worked with Gary Marshall. I work with Cindy Williams on a show. I mean, all those people that I grew up watching on TV. I got to work side by side with them. I screen tested for a Penny Marshall for Awakenings. With Robert De Niro. So I mean, all of those. It's weird. I truly believe that when you envision something and you see yourself and you see that you attract it. I mean, I used to watch like Rocky with Sylvester Stallone. I remember watching Who's the Boss with Tony Danza, and then here I am later on. I'm working on Who's the Boss opposite Tony Danza. We're going to play golf, and guess who plays golf? We show up to the golf course. It's Sylvester Stallone. So here I am on the putting green with Tony Banta and Rocky, and I kind of pinch myself, going, How did this happen? But it's that dream. I saw myself doing. I knew I wanted to do it, and then I took massive action, to make that dream a reality. They say you want to take the island, burn the boats. Well, I came out to Hollywood with a one-way ticket. There was no boat back. Failure was not an option. It was like, I'm going to make this dream a reality, and I did. So I
Yeah,
love
I
that.
remember that. Yeah, I remember you told me the story how you make your own project happen, and you got people like Mickey Rourke on your film. And I think it's really I think artists they gravitate with people who have very high energy and they love to act, they love to be in great movies and great storytelling. And if you have a sincere, heartfelt interest in them, they will come and want to work with you. This is what I have found. And I've also have to say some funny stories because, and this like a little Hollywood inside information for a lot of your actor students, right? There is so many people that have submitted to me as actors before they were stars, for either movies that we were financing or we're producing or, we were handling the worldwide distribution rights. And I still have those people's headshots. I have the headshots of Brad Pitt right off of Thelma and Louise, and he was submitted to me for the sci-fi movie called Dorman, which, by the way, I pre-sold on a poster in Cannes. I did not even have a script, and I was so passionate
Wow.
about that project. I raised $2.5 million. And all of a sudden, like I have to cast it now because there is no script. And so Brad Pitt gets submitted to me, and get this, my distributor said, "Oh, he's just a pretty boy. He's just a pretty boy in a movie. I don't even think he can act. I don't think he's going anywhere. Can we get somebody who's a better actor?"
Big
And then
mistake.
look at what happened to Brad Pitt, right? He
Yeah.
wins an Oscar. I'm like,
What you know,
It's great.
what you said, there was a key word you said in there is passion. That passion, that's how you enroll people in your projects. When you're passionate about, when you're an independent filmmaker and you have this passion project that your heart and soul is into it and you believe in it more than anything else, that's how you get people enrolled. They get engaged. They feel your passion. When I was creating, producing my film, and I was, I raised $2.5 million to make that film. And all the steps along the way was in engaging. It was an independent film in New York City in 1999, 2000. It was it was New York's a hard city to film a movie in. Dealing with IATSE and just it's the Teamsters. They were getting paid more than the principal actors. So it was truly a challenge. But everybody that I got on, all the filmmakers that brought on, they did it because of, they may have taken less money, but they did it because they were excited about the passion of the project. So I think it's truly important that you have that passion for it. If you're not passionate about it, don't do it. you know
Yeah.
Making a film is one of the hardest things as a producer. One of the hardest things I ever did. I felt like I went to war. You were in the trenches. It was a battle, dealing with everything. So if you're not truly passionate about it, then don't do it. But if you are passionate, then go after it like you mean it.
Yes, it is a roller coaster ride. And I always say to people, until you say the word action, you don't really have a movie. That's a fact. You could be thinking you're going in production, and then literally 24 hours before the cameras start rolling, there is no movie. And so you have to have a very, very strong mindset and very strong will and a constant eye on the goal and what you're trying to do, why you're doing it. You have to have your why, right? What kind of emotions you want to steer when people are going to watch it on the screen. That is so important, as is also to have a very positive energy on set. What I have found is an when you are kind to other people on set, when you value everyone from the gopher who's getting paid $50 a day to the actor who's getting paid $2 million a day, and you treat them equally, it's going to be a happy set. And if there is a happy set, there's going to be incredible magic that happens on a movie, and that's when the movies come out successful. Most of the time when I've seen movies that fail and then I kind of dug up a little bit because I have friends who worked in them, most of the time it's because there was friction on set and somebody had an ego. There was distance. There was so many things. It was done for the money. People were forgetting what they were doing it for, and people feel that. And I think you, as an audience, as I do, we
Sure.
feel when there's magic on that screen, right? We feel it.
Absolutely. I mean, that's why filmmakers like Scorsese, they use the same family, the same crew, the same editor, the same cast, because they know how to work with each other. It's
Yeah,
it's it's
yeah,
it's it's fun. They have a shorthand to work on a project together. So
yeah.
let me ask you, as a producer, I deal with actors all the time, and I've been on the other side of the desk as a producer. What would your advice be to actors in auditioning? What have you found during your years of producing, being on the other side of the desk? What's your advice for actors?
I think that actors need to be humble. So they have to start thinking not just, oh, off at the get go, I want to work with Clint Eastwood. And just think that if they don't work with Clint Eastwood or, are on the set with Tom Cruise, then that job is not good enough. They have to really, first of all, I would recommend that they read the scripts, not just if they have access to them. So if they get to audition something, don't just read the sides. Try to do a little bit of a research on the story. And if you get lucky enough to have a meeting with a producer together with a casting director, try to make a human connection with them. You can say, hey, Alexia, or hey, Billy, I just saw your latest movie, and I really liked it because try to make a little bit of a contact with them, because we will remember that, right? I mean, we're only going to get so many A-list actors that we can cast in our movies, especially when we're indie producers. We're not going to get all the stars. We are lucky enough if we get one or two. So everybody else that we're going to cast because A, they're good in the room, they're professional, and they're talented. and you really feel their energy, right? So this is what I would say to them: try to read the scripts and try to make a connection with the producer and show them why you want to do this so bad, because most of the time we will take chances. Indie producers, what I love is indie producers always take chances on cast. If they love the project and they see potential, I know I have done so many movies where I cast people that they said to me, oh, this person is not a name. And I'm like, no, I really want to work with this actor because he's got a great attitude or she has a great attitude. I'd much rather work with them on a set than work with a star with an attitude, to be honest. So this is what I would advise to them: educate yourself, have good manners when you enter the room, and of course, be super professional and learn and work with people like yourself, that coaches them, because that's what I love about you. You're not just, teaching the actors the skills to be a good actor, but also how the movie business truly works. If you don't know that, you're
Sure,
gonna have a hard
it's
time.
show business, you know. There's you got to know both sides of it, you know, the business and the show, you know. And I've been blessed, you know. I've been in the game 35 years, and I've been on, you know, I've been a writer, producer, an actor, you know. I've been there, so you know, I've learned a lot. I've made a lot of mistakes along the way, and you know, my goal is to, you know, help other actors or producers, you know, get to where they want to go further faster, so they don't have to make the mistakes that I made along the way. You know, I have the shortcuts. You know, I know what works and what doesn't work. I know the do's and the don'ts. I know where the potholes are, you know, to you want to avoid. So you know, that's what I love about what I do, is being the guide. You know, you know, success leaves clues, and I've been there, and I know, you know, how to get, you know, every I have actors knock on my door every day, and they have a dream, and you know, they don't know how to get started. They want to do this, and by the time I'm done with them, they're working actors. You know, I can't promise them they're going to be famous in a big movie with, you know, Clint Eastwood, but they're going to be working actors. They're going to be in the game. Then it's up to them to, you know, really want it and be passionate about it and go after it like they mean it, and you know, really outwork, out prep, like you said. I read the script, read everything, you know, know who everybody is in the room, you know, do your research, you know who the producer is, know who the casting director, who the director is, you know, go on Google, you know, look at the breakdown. Who is this guy? Oh, the director's the short bald guy. Okay, so I know when I walk in the room, short bald guy, he's the director. Oh, the pretty blonde, she's the producer. So now I can go in, oh yeah, I've watched this film. You know, I had a friend of mine, he was reading for a film, and I said, who's the director? And he said, Vic Tayback. And I said, Vic Tayback? I said, you mean the guy from Alice, the TV show? And it was Taylor Hackford. And I go, you got to be kidding me. I go, you Taylor Hackford, and no offense to Vic Tayback, but that's a different guy. So you know, you want to have watched Officer and a Gentleman. You want to have seen the film so you can have a conversation and say, hey, I love that film. You know, so it's really about doing your homework, you know, really knowing everybody in that room. And then it frees you up too, because they're no longer strangers. You know them, you know their body of work, you know what they look like. So I know if I'm in the room, I can play the room. I can, you know, if I'm doing an interrogation scene and, you know, it's two cops interrogating, you know, I can I'll play it to the director. I'll play it to the director, and play it to a producer, and I'll make them part of the scene, and I'll make them feel what's going on. So they're not outsiders looking in, they're part of it. They can see into my eyes and see what, you know, what's going on, you know, and exposing the pain or whatever it is in the given circumstance of the scene. So they feel. I think the biggest thing I've learned over my years as an actor is, you know, your job is to make them feel. You know, really go,
Yes.
what is it that I'm supposed to make them feel? It's a comedy. I'm supposed to make them laugh. Well, make them laugh more than everybody else. Or if I got to scare them, well, scare them or make them cry. Or, you know, leave a piece of your soul in that room. And don't go into the room trying to get anything. Go into the room not wanting to get the part, but going to shine your light, you know, give a piece of you, your soul, and leave that behind. And you know, if you come in with that energy, not in your head and trying to think, oh, I hope I don't forget my lines, or I hope they like me, but if you come in just trying to give and give, you know, this is show them who the character is. You know, it's all about choices, you know, bringing the character into the door. You know, they don't want to meet you. They want to meet the character. I want to see Bob. I don't want to see Joe. You know, bring Bob into the room. You know, how does Bob walk? How does Bob talk? What's going on in Bob's world? I don't care about Joe. So, it's really bringing the character into the room, and I found
Yeah.
amazing success applying that. It's not me. I'm not coming to get anything. I'm trying to give you something and to make you feel.
Yes. That is so true. And I also love what you said about there's the story about the guy who didn't know who this director was. Also, try to appreciate the history of cinema because, back in the days, it was just about the actors. They didn't have special effects, everything was shot on stage. And I had at one point an audition, and we had Barbara Niven who came on an audition. Then, she was also in one of my movies. And, she used to be married to David Niven. And I had one of the people who was working for me, was a casting director assistant, and he's like, "Oh, Niven, that name sounds familiar." And I'm like, "David Niven?" He's like, "Who is David Niven?" I'm like, "Oh my God." And then I'm said, "Well, do you know who Catherine Hepburn is?" And he goes, "Oh yeah, Breakfast at Tiffany's." I'm like, "No, that's Audrey Hepburn." And I'm thinking, this 25 years old. I mean, like, you gotta learn the history of your cinema. I mean, the legends, Betty Davis, Clark. You gotta learn about that because those people were the true actors, right?
Sure.
And so that's something that I also recommend. It's like learn the history of cinema. It's not just about Robert Downey Jr. or Stallone. They were the greats. There was
Mhm.
Clark Gable. There was David Niven. There was like, Jimmy Stewart. There was, you know, um, like Betty Davis. Come on.
Sure.
Yeah.
I always
Yeah.
tell my actors, I give them a list of films that they need to watch. Because a lot of these
Yeah.
young actors are like, oh, I never heard of that movie. I'm like, what? You've never heard of The Godfather? You've
My
never seen
God.
The Godfather? So it's like, no, no, no. You got to, there's certain films you have to watch. You have to see Young Brando. You got to see Streetcar Named Desire. You got to see On the
Right.
Waterfront. You got to see those roles. I mean, he made acting what it was. He transformed acting, Brando. So
Yeah.
you have to see
Yeah.
those performances. So
And
I
you
got a
also have
question.
to respect the producers too, by the way, Billy. And that's something that sometimes people think that the producers are the people with the money. And that is so not true. As you know, you've been a producer yourself. Sometimes producers have to literally get loans of their houses and get in debt for 10, 15 years to see their dream come true. So when you
Sure.
go to them and say, "Give me a part or give me a role or help me do this," you have to think that they are in their head. They might like you, but they're thinking of 100 ways of how they can make the money back that either they invested or that they're getting their investors on. So
Sure.
learn about that because they're the most underpaid people in the world, the producers. I'm
It's,
always saying, yeah, we're
I
underpaid, my
Yeah,
friend.
absolutely. And I learned it the hard way. When I produced my film, I was it was an ego thing. It was a bit. There's only one producer on the set. Big mistake. I had the weight of $2.5 million on my shoulders. Everything I had to deal with, every head of every department. I hired everybody. I didn't have any help, and it was just so much for a young, especially a first time producer to I had to it was basically I was learning on the job. It was film school, but I was getting paid. But I was smart to surround myself with a great line producer, a great a head of departments. All my heads of departments. I took a director that had never wasn't even in the DGA. I had a theater in Hollywood, and he was a great director. He was an actor's director. So I got him into the DGI. I brought him into New York, but this was his first film too as a director, so I needed to surround him with a great DP, and so that the weight of all of that, I didn't realize how much a producer has to go through. Just everything. I mean, I give you a perfect example. We were filming a scene, and I had a Ferrari. My character drove a Ferrari, a red Ferrari. So we were losing the light on, and we had to go back the next day to finish the scene. Well, instead of, the guy putting it on a flatbed truck, he decided to drive the Ferrari home to the shop himself. Well, he lost control. He wrapped it around a pole. And I was up till 5 in the morning trying to find a matching Ferrari for the very next morning to have the Ferrari there so we can film and then I had to deal with the insurance. Then I had to deal with the picture car company. And, I mean, it was like, and then I had to be an actor and I had to go in front of the camera.
Oh
So
my God.
it was tough. So yeah, producers, they don't get the credit that, they truly deserve. That's a tough job. So that being said, if there's a producer out there, a young filmmaker, somebody who wants to become a producer, they don't even know what a producer is. A lot of people don't know what a producer does. What would your advice be to them?
I would say think of yourself as the orchestra conductor. You are basically the producer is not just a person who is looking for money. The producer has the gut and the instincts, first of all, to pick up a story that they're going to get behind. So they know how to pick up a good script, right? And then they have to basically reverse engineer it from seeing the end game of maybe getting an Oscar and having a huge box office hit, like what are the things that they need. And it's not just money, it's so much more than money. People think, oh, I'm a producer, all I have to do is look for money, or all I have to do is like find somebody with money or find somebody who's going to get me an actor. There's so many moving pieces. So what I would say to them is read as many books as you can. I have some favorites of mine, of
What
course,
are they?
Hello, I would have to say Hello, He Lied by Linda Obst, Lawrence German, So You Want to Be a Producer. That's another great classic, but goodie. And then what I would also say is learn also about script writing, because I think a producer really needs to know what a good script is, right? He needs to know if it's technically correct so that he can go and get it packaged and get the actors on board, has to know about distribution, has to know about marketing, has to know if he's going to get investors, how his investors are going to get make their money back. So you really are an orchestra conductor. I mean, you got to learn everything, my friend. When you want to be a producer, it's not just oh, I found this great script and I'm going to be a producer. No, you learned the hard way, right, Billy? Because you had to do it all.
Sure.
So that's what I would suggest to them is like find a great story that you want to do anything. Damn it. Sorry, I don't know why my notifications are on. So I would say find a great story that you're passionate about. Look what the market wants. You don't have to follow them. If they go right, you go left. I'm not saying that you have to be a sheep and just because everybody wants to do horror, you do horror. Don't worry about that. Find a story that resonates with you, speaks to your heart, and know that you're going to do anything it takes to see that realized, and be humble about it and study and learn and network like crazy and believe in yourself and believe in your dream and have heart and dream maker. And that's what I would say to them. I know that the journey is going to be long. I'm not going to lie to you. There's people when you hear and they're picking up those Oscars and you hear them, you had a lot of them as your guests that they tell you it took me 15 years, it took me 20 years. So have a day job as well. If you can, because it's a long road to be a producer. It's not an instant thing. And you have to be a people person. So you and I are good.
So I got to go. You said something. It really all starts with a screenplay. And, it's got to be on the page. And even when it's on the page, if you don't have the right cast, I mean, it's just. But it starts with the script. So what if there's a writer out there, or maybe there's somebody who has an idea for a great movie in their head. They have this. I got a great idea. It would make a great movie, but maybe they're not a screenwriter. What advice would you give them how to get their project, out of their head and onto a page?
Hire the pros. Look at put together a dream list of people. And when I'm saying dream list, don't say dream list. I want to work with, of course, yeah, you have to shoot for the sky. I want to work with Clint Eastwood. I want to work with, David E. Kelly to write my script. Of course, everybody wants that. Aaron Sorkin, you name it. But just to start looking at people that you think will be a good community with you. They don't have to be super high. They have to be people who have done it and have, bled a lot and shed those tears and make them your allies, because it is a community driven business. That's why we see when you see a movie you see 20 producers. There is a reason for that. Everything is a phone call away, so try to get that sense of community. And when you say sense of community, it's not how they can serve you but how you can also serve them, because it's a two-way street. So sometimes people go, okay, it's a community, I'm just going to have to go, who's going to like get me from A to B? No, you also have to think, how are you going to help the person that want to get you from A to B? Because you're going to have to give them something. If you can't give them money, find another way to barter. find a way to give them something back, because there's something of great value in being acknowledged, appreciated, valued, assisted, sincerely liked. And that goes a lot further than money. It's not just about the money. So that's what I would say. Find your community.
And how would somebody that's kind of new into the industry find that community?
There's a lot of communities. There's Facebook groups that you can go and join. Stage 32 will be one of them. Clubhouse, now it's a new thing. You can get and join Clubhouse. There's so many rooms where people are asking producers. Like we had like the producer of Entourage in one room that he was talking about. What's his name? Oh my God, I'm like having a blank. You know who? The producer of Entourage. And so we have a lot of like A-listers, even on Clubhouse. Network, but network with the heart, and network with authenticity and humility. That is very important. It's not just about your project. Everybody has a dream. So see how you can help another make their dreams come true. And then the other person will want to help you make yours.
It's great advice. So you got your finger on the pulse of Hollywood with what buyers and sellers and who's looking for what. What are you finding out there? What are people looking for right now as far as projects?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I am just right now. Sorry, I'm trying push the pause for a second. I just want to turn off these notifications because I don't know why. Sorry about that. About that.
Okay, recording.
Okay, recording. Sorry about that. Notification turned off. So, how would I say the market is wanting and needing right now? What's very interesting after the pandemic, people are seeking connection. And so, what I found very exciting as I'm getting ready to attend Berlin Film Market is that people are more open to human stories, stories that are giving how frail humanity is, stories that I want to make us inspired and have hope. So, believe it or not, horror is not, yeah, it could look like an easy deal, but it's not so easy. That market is completely crowded. People are open right now. They're open to human stories, family, animation, true stories, books, dramas. And they also are not necessarily needing those stars. Look at how many shows we have on Netflix and Amazon and Hulu. They don't necessarily have A-list stars, and they're amazing. And we watch them because of the storytelling, right? So that's happening in film too. So I think it's a very exciting time for all of us right now who are pursuing the dream and are never say die. There's going to be a renaissance of the theatrical experience and going to the movie theaters and really getting those stories that you and I are going to talk about, like Goodfellas. Hopefully, there's going to be another Goodfellas and other stories like that, that they transcend time and society. It is going to happen. I'm 100%. Yes, I am 100% sure.
I'm writing it right now.
Yes. And then we'll listen to this a few years down the road and like, oh my God, can you believe it? Yes. Yeah.
That's awesome. So Hollywood, with the pandemic and everything, what do you see the future of Hollywood? I mean, I know you're going to a film mart, but it's not, you're going to be doing it on Zoom, right? You're not going to an actual film mart. So how's that working out?
Um, I think film markets are going to be extinct very soon. I think that we are going to be connected all year long. And I actually found it interesting because we have had moments where there were people that I never thought I could reach, because sometimes I have to go through the assistant. I know them, they're friends of mine, but they're in high positions in Hollywood, and they will not take my call because they're busy and they have, five assistants screening the calls. Those assistants are no longer there. So if you have the direct email and they're sitting at home, playing with their kids and they're bored, they actually might respond to you. So I've actually found a lot more access during the pandemic than
Absolutely.
during a regular time. I don't know about you. I mean, look at
Oh,
you. I mean,
yeah.
your acting school is thriving, and you don't even have to worry about it.
Yeah, well, for
It's
me, I
all
mean,
accessible.
I've had Academy Award winner Bobby Moresco on my podcast. I know
I
before the
saw that.
pandemic, I even been too busy working on a film. But since he was, downtime in at home, he was like, "Yeah, I'll jump on the podcast." So, I think you're correct. There's a lot more access, and the gates, the guards at the gate are not now, they're not there anymore. So they're a lot more accessible to get to the actual, the person you want to speak to.
Everything, yeah, yeah. And I have to say, I mean, obviously this thing is gonna end and people want to get back on set, they want to travel. Um, there is a lot of production going on in remote locations right now. I mean, there's literally a lot of movies being filmed in real time. We just don't see them a lot here in Hollywood because, of course, we are the last people, the last state that is still a little bit on a major, restriction. But there is quite a lot of people. I have clients in Europe, like in Italy, who have been filming since October. I have director clients who are shooting commercials, movies, series non-stop. And it's happening, well, now England shut down again, but it was happening in Ireland, Scotland, Australia, Canada. Canada, there's a lot of production going on right now. It's crazy. So there is, and there is some in very smart filmmakers, by the way, who have shot during the pandemic. And how they did it is they gathered some of their friends and then they would find a store in a contained location. All of them, they would go in a farm somewhere in Ohio. They would sit there, they would have a compound, they would all get tested, and they would have everything in house, live there together for like 4 or 5 weeks, and make a movie. They're not going to get COVID because they're with one another. They're not having any contact with the outside world, and they're being creative and they're making movies. So a few of them that I met that I spoke to. So
Well, I think there's going to be a lot more of that. If this is the way, bubble filmmaking, you're in the bubble. You can't get out of the bubble. Once you're in,
yeah,
you're in. You know.
yeah, yeah. And a lot of people who are building now stages with virtual reality and VFX and everything, where they can like, I don't have to go to Italy to film this. I can actually make it look like Italy on a stage. And so technology is going up the roof right now. And they're building studios everywhere. I mean, I was talking to the Malta Film Commission right now. They're building two big studios, huge. There is studios being built in Puerto Vallarta, in the Dominican Republic. You have no idea,
Well,
purely because they're remote locations and you can still keep on going. So you see that artists, they keep on going. That's what artists do.
so if I have a script and I'm trying to raise money, how do you raise money for a film?
You don't come to me because I'm expensive. I'm like I paid my dues. No, but I mean, raising money right now is very, very difficult. I'm not gonna lie to you. So especially as we talked about it with a lot of people in the industry, it's either you're gonna make the movie under 1 million, or you're gonna make the big movie that Netflix is gonna buy, or HBO Max is gonna buy, or any of the streamers or a studio. I don't think there's a middle round anymore. So you're either going to be resourceful and try to go to your friends and families and get some tax credits and get some soft money. So you go in New Mexico or you go to Georgia and you get some of those pieces together. It's not going to happen from a buyer, a sales agent, or an equity financier, because the equity financiers right now are playing with the stock market. As we all know, they're putting money on Zoom because that's going up the roof. They're putting out money on Target and Walmart. They're certainly not going to want to take a risk to put, money in film. So you have to get resourceful. And then there's a lot of millionaires who became millionaires during the pandemic because they pivoted, right? And maybe they do have money to spare and they want to get and do the next Alexia Melocchi or Billy Gallo film, you know? So that's what it is, that's what makes it.
So you got to make friends with some millionaires with some extra money.
Yeah, yeah, the old ways are kind of gone. They're
Yeah.
going to be gone for a while. So, but
So the days
listen,
of getting I know when I was producing, it was like, okay, who's in it? Getting name talent, so you can get some money from different territories, or you know, pre-sales. That's gone.
yeah, you won't get money from. I was talking in a room on Clubhouse and I was asking a friend of mine who's a big sales agent, financier, and I said, how much does a Nicole Kidman movie get you in terms of pre-sales? And they said 15% of your budget.
Wow, that's it.
Yeah, 15 if you're lucky. Well, now it's 15. In the old days it used to be maybe 20, 25, but it's gone down to 50. So don't get stars. Trust your story. Trust your story and make a movie with people. Well, we know the story about Crash, right? Because you had Bobby Moresco, you had a lot of those people where, Don Cheadle stood behind it and made some calls. People want to work, actors want to work. And if you're lucky and you have a great story, you might get an actor, if you can go without the agents, who will sign onto your movie. And then you maybe get, a rich Silicon Valley guy to give you some money because he wants to meet Robert De Niro, wants to meet
Right.
Nicole Kidman. But no, the international thing is right now is the only way to go about it is with full productions. Really, that's the only way that you actually can go. So if you want to film a movie in Italy, or you want to film a movie in Australia, you can partner up with some people, and then you have better chances. Not the traditional Hollywood way,
Got it.
sadly.
So, I know you're into mindset. You're really you're an entrepreneur. You're kind of, a Tony Robbins fan. I mean, you're constantly working on yourself. Just like I do. I grow so I can give. I learn so I can teach. So what are if you could give some advice to young artists out there, what would maybe some mindsets, some daily routines, what kind of stuff do you do?
Well, my new favorite thing is really the second question to what do you want, which is what do you really want? Because I think that right now we are all into shiny object syndrome. There's so much noise online, and we're being bombarded, and we're constantly going, okay, how do I pivot? How do I do this? Maybe I should quit acting and I should do this. We're like constantly second guessing ourselves, right? So the way that I was advise actors, filmmakers, whatever, just ground yourself for a moment and don't listen to what the media is saying. Don't listen to what the flavor of the month. Yeah, you got to do this. You got to have an online course. You got to, in order to succeed, just be quiet and be silent and ask yourself, what do I want? And then ask yourself, what do I really want? And that's going to be your answer. And that's what you have to pursue no matter what. What do I really want? And as you said earlier, it's the feeling. And with the feeling comes the vision. And with the vision comes the action. And if you don't have the feeling and the vision, your action is going to be scattered. And you don't want to do that. You want to be focused. So, this is what I would say. What my word of the year, I would love to see what your word was this year. For me, 2021 is all about being intentional. And so I want to be intentional in my meditation. I want to be intentional in my time management. I want to be intentional in the type of projects I get behind, the kind of people that I want, my tribe that I want to surround myself with. I want to be more intentional. And I guess that comes with grounding yourself and asking yourself, what do I want? And then what do I really want?
Love that. Mine is love.
You.
Mine is love and
Oh,
contribution. I want to be of
yes.
service. I want to be able to touch as many people's lives as I can. And then what's cool about this podcast is I can, I'm not tied to my brick and mortar here in Manhattan Beach. I teach everywhere now. If you want to study with me, guess what? Contact me and we'll get a Zoom and we'll be study working together. So, it's all about sharing that knowledge, that light, that love. That's what I'm about. It's before, as a young actor, it was about me, ego things. And when I got all those shiny objects and all that stuff that I thought was going to make me happy, I wasn't. It was like, is this it? When I had my own TV series, or when I mean, I had the stuff when I was in New York producing the film, and I had the loft in Soho, and I had the money and the title, and I was miserable. And it's not about that. It's about love. It's about loving yourself and loving others, and being kind, and peace and joy. I mean, it sounds kind of corny, but that's what I really found is I'm the richest man in the world, and I don't have all that material stuff that I had in New York City when I was producing the film, but I have a beautiful wife, a beautiful son. I'm the president of the
Yeah.
Lucky Club. I'm the richest man there
I
is.
love that. Oh,
So
president of the Lucky Club. That's
so
amazing.
I truly
Yes.
feel blessed, and that for me, that's all about how can I give? How can I serve? You know,
Yeah.
I love that the secret to living is giving, you know, really just giving
Yeah.
of yourself. And
Yeah.
this is what this is about. This is why we're on this podcast now, because I just want to give your knowledge, my knowledge to somebody, some listener out there. And if they can find a golden nugget to get them where they want to go further, faster, then I've done my job. We've done the job, with the podcast.
That's such an amazing mission statement, Billy. And it's actually, I don't know if you saw the movie Soul on Disney Plus. I
I
am
have
in
not.
love with that movie. Oh my God. Okay, I'm not going to give spoiler alerts,
Is
but
this one the little cartoon
it,
one?
yes, but
Okay.
the spiritual messages and the life lessons in that movie is going to blow you away. And one of the main messages that touched me, without giving away the plot, was that one word, you can say one word to a person at the right time, and it can ultimately change the trajectory of their life. So be very, very careful about the kind of words that you use, right? Because just like you said, you can say one thing to a person that they needed in that moment, and all of a sudden something turns on, and all of a sudden you have changed their life, you saved a life, and that makes me happy. That's why I call it the heart of show business. So for me, that's giving, is being at the right place at the right time, and just downloading something in that moment that is going to give somebody hope, and have them believe in their dreams, and have them know that it's going to be okay. And this word is made of love, like you said.
Beautiful. Love that. One last question. So, if you could go back to the younger you and give you some advice, what would that be about life?
I would say stop trying to please everybody. Just be you. Because when I was a little girl, I thought that I had to get approval from everybody on what I was doing. I always had to be, a perfectionist. Then I had to be the best at everything. And the best at everything was me judging myself all the time. And it was never good enough. And so, what I would say to that little girl, say, you are uniquely you. Just shine your life, thrive in it. It's gonna be okay. You're gonna, pardon me, F up. I'm not gonna say the F bomb. I'm gonna F up. Some people are gonna hate you. Some people are gonna love you. It's not about you. It's them. You keep on shining your light, and just be yourself, and believe in the better world like you always did when you were a little girl. Even with the ups and downs, there's still a beautiful word out there. I'm so glad that you said that. I'm in love with life. I always will be. So that's what I would say to that little girl. It's gonna be okay. Stop pleasing everybody. Be yourself.
Love that. Thank you so much for being a part of my podcast. Thank you for sharing your wisdom and your knowledge. And I
It's been so
hopefully
lovely. Yes.
hopefully when
Thank you.
the things calm down a little bit, we can get together and have some lunch.
Yes, and I want to bring you onto my
I
podcast as
would love
well,
that.
because we need to
You let
give
me
your
know when.
story. Yes, thank you so much for having me.
Okay.
It's been lovely.
Stay
Thank you.
safe, stay healthy, and I'll talk to you soon.
Hey, thanks for listening to the show. Please rate, review, share this with your friends. Subscribe if you haven't. Please take whatever you get from here, the golden nuggets, and apply them to your career. Go after your dreams with passion. Don't let anybody tell you it can't be done. I believe in you. Follow your dreams. I'll see you in Hollywood.